It is 5 p.m. with distinctive Delphine in Montrose, Colorado. And today we are very lucky to have the man himself, Mark Wingeter from Coldwell Banker in Montrose and Grand Junction. So Mark has a really good picture on the whole western slope. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. Glad for having me on. However you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
We're happy to have you. I posted your bio, but why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself before we move on to the market update on real estate?
Sure. Real estate wise, I'm the managing director for the Grand Junction and Montrose offices. I've been in real estate since 2013, but before that, I was a retail manager for a long time. I ran a store and also purchased for them. I've run big box store management stuff, also did search and rescue, sold cars. I've done a couple things.
Very nice. Well, I'm glad to hear all this. And so today, our focus, don't we want to know today, how is the real estate industry doing with COVID-19 and its hit?
So COVID-19 has been super fun. If you like things to change quickly, then COVID-19 is your friend right now. So honestly, it's not had as dramatic an impact for Montrose and Grand Junction as it has on our more resort counterparts like Telluride, Aspen, Vail.
Mhm.
Those areas have been hit a lot harder. That being said, we're not that far away from these people. I mean, from you, Montrose, Telluride's an hour and 15-minute drive, something like that. So, I mean, it's not like it's the other side of the country. So it's fun. It's funky the way everything's isolated. That being said, we're kind of all into the same boat, and we're all in this kind of shelter at home thing. And those rules keep changing. So, all in all, the markets are super good considering all those challenges. But it's definitely changing the game.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I'm actually surprised. I was just talking to a potential buyer and we were talking about rates and even talking to our lenders. It is actually still a good time to buy and to sell if you look at the market. So, talking about this on that note, if I want to buy or sell, what should I know?
Well, as a buyer, right now, the biggest thing is understanding that to actually go physically look at a house is extremely challenging compared to a normal thing where we might take somebody through 7, 8 houses in a day or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, buyers need to not only be pre-qualified with a mortgage before we'll take them out to a property, but they really need to have viewed it online, looked at the photos, maybe even driven past it, just so that they know, okay, all of this stuff looks pretty good. Now I'm ready to take that next step to actually go try to set up a time to look at it, which is something that's possibly a challenge right now that we're kind of in the midst of.
And I think what helps the sellers allow those showings too, if you're a buyer out there, get pre-qualified. If you're already qualified and the seller knows that this showing is not a wasted showing, they are most likely to allow you to see the home.
Correct. And I think for the sellers, it's important to note, okay, I put my house on the market 2 months ago. You had a house on the market, like say you're in Montrose and you put a house on the market for 210. You might have 25 showings in 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen because that's just not safe. It's just not realistic right now when we're trying to keep everybody social distanced and safe. So the big thing with that is though, okay, one of the agents in Junction, the house on the market over the weekend, he was freaked out because he thought he would have 25, 30 showings. He had 4. And I was like, wow, that's, I don't think that's necessarily that big a deal because he got multiple offers. So like, well, out of the 4 showings, how many offers did you get? 3.
That's amazing.
80% of the showings made an offer. That's not a stat that ever even gets tracked, right? That's crazy. So the real buyers are the only people that should come to the house. So as a seller, that's some comfort. And we've got a whole host of protocol to follow to keep everybody safe on the front.
Yeah, and talking about protocol, my next question is really about the process. Is the process the same? What adjustments have been done? And I think you've covered quite a bit of that in your previous statement, but also I feel like we can help people understand the change in the process and the adjustments, whether on the real estate market or even with lenders And as you and I both know, this changes hour by hour, but we want to give you guys a pulse on what's happening now.
Right. Well, and this is at least this part hasn't been changing as rapidly. The challenges that we have are not all the appraisers are working, or because our rates are so low, they're super tied up with refi appraisals too. So we've got two pieces that are possibly going to be a challenge in your deal. We also, some of the inspectors are working, some of them aren't. Some of the rules aren't super clear on who can and can't work on some of those things, and that's causing some confusion. So your dates and deadlines that you would normally have as your inspection objection deadline and your appraisal deadline are somewhat fluid. And we have some new contract addendum that we've created, actually a COVID-19 addendum specifically, that the Real Estate Commission has put together that help address that. As a seller, that has its own challenges, but the reality is nobody has any idea how this is all going to go down from day to day. So we just want to prepare for kind of all eventualities.
Yeah, I agree. And let's move on to all this information we're getting, right? Because right now out there's so much information, including misinformation. And so other than talking to my realtor, because I'm maybe not quite ready to either list or buy, but I want to keep up with the industry, tell me trusted resources out there that I can go look at and get accurate information as of now.
So that's tricky. So honestly,
talk to your realtor.
What's that?
Talk to your realtor.
Pretty much, because the problem that we're running into, right? Like it's always the same. It's just things are changing so rapidly right now that the 48-hour lag time kind of stuff that you might see in Zillow and Trulia and Homes.com, Realtor.com is faster. So that piece for active listings is quicker. But those all feed from our websites. So our actual website is going to be faster. But the flip side of that is something like Realtor.com doesn't actually have a provision, or Realtor.com has what they call pending, which is under contract, right? But Zillow does not. So all these houses that might show on someplace like Zillow, a lot of them are actually under contract, but they still say active until they close. And so
Correct.
Between those issues, plus the 48-hour lag that happens, sometimes stuff is under contract before you ever even see it on Zillow, even in this market. And then you get all these phone calls from stuff, and ultimately you're calling people through Zillow. It's a lead generation, so that is its primary objective. So no different than any of the others. But our websites are the feed that feeds Zillow and all that kind of stuff. So
right.
There's not reading in some cases.
That's a great point. I love that. And then, as you mentioned in your bio earlier, you used to be a first responder. And you made a statement earlier this week that I really enjoyed, and I feel everyone needs to hear right now. Because what is the most important thing that a first responder is responsible to take care of?
Right. So it's funny because it's going to sound kind of selfish until you really get to the explanation. But as a first responder, as doing search and rescue and all, I bet you, I would imagine, I was not in the military, but I would imagine they are in the same boat. Your first objective is your own safety, period. Second is your team. Third, and a distant third, is the actual subject of the search. And the reasoning behind that is if you break your leg, then your team has to drop everything they're doing and attend to you. Well, if you're searching for somebody in a medical crisis, something like that, that means that they are slowing down to get to that person. Therefore, by taking care of yourself, that's the best thing you can possibly do for the actual person that you're going after. It's just a weird way of looking at it, but honestly, it applies very, very aptly to business and real estate.
Yeah, so tell me, how does that apply to your real estate career? Because I know that not just for real estate, but for anyone, if you can take care of yourself first, you really see everything else falling together, and just really everything comes together and makes more sense, right?
The big thing the analogy that perfectly sums that up is that you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So if you're not taking care of yourself, and this isn't about commission, so I want to make that clear. This isn't money. This is about mental, because real estate is a tough business. It's very emotional, and for us as agents, our job is not to not to chase people down that emotional roller coaster. As a lot of people would say, stay in the lobby while your clients go up and down the elevator. Somebody's got to be grounded there. That is not easy. And so you've got to make sure that you're on top of your game and up to speed on everything you need to be up to speed on, and taking care of yourself mentally, physically, just to be able to handle that workload and that stress so that you can provide the highest level possible. And that's really the bottom line, because my most important thing above all else is making sure my clients get it.
Yeah.
And I can't do that if I'm falling apart.
And I love that. It helped me a lot to refocus. My focus is to just know, okay, I am tired. I'm not sleeping well. How can I fix this before I do anything else to grow my business? Because if I don't take care of myself, even my kids are off balance if I'm not doing well.
Yeah, you got to have a good foundation to have a solid house. It's the same. It's all kind of the same basic tenet to all that stuff.
Agreed. Well, and then there is something, you've given us a lot to think about and a lot of information here. And there is something I really love to do on this show is to ask you 2 book recommendations. What are your top 2 books right now?
Right now, some of the more recent stuff that I finished that I really, really enjoyed is The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. Absolutely amazing book, and definitely can shed some different light on how you approach many, many things. And also The Dichotomies of Leadership by Leif Babbitt and Jocko Willink. These are 2 very different, 3 different people, two authors that on this one, and they couldn't be more opposite, right? But the end goal and the point of a lot of it is the same, and it's kind of a selfless. You need to be looking at what your end goal is, not what your objective is for yourself.
That's amazing. And I love that the 2 suggestions are opposite, because that helps balance everything out. So you get
intentional. As I started saying it, I'm like, wow, got 2 hardcore Navy SEALs, and then some dude does talks for Microsoft. I don't think he's done a lot of cage fighting. The other 2 probably have.
No kidding. Well, I will be posting in the comments those 2 books, and then you have Mark's bio in the comments as well. Everything is right next to you. Click and ask Mark if you have any more needs or questions on real estate. And then for Montrose, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm also a realtor. So everyone, this was Distinctive Delphine. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. This was invaluable.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks. Have a great one.
You too.